Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Slam. I'm your host, Martina, and thank you for joining me again. Welcome back. So, I know it's been a little bit because I have been under the weather. Thankfully, I did not have COVID. Did not have COVID. Very grateful for that. However, I was not feeling well. If you hear a little bit of congestion in my voice, that would be why. So, I'm gonna do my best to make sure I can get up to speed. I know it has been a minute since I've been on here. However, I have still been watching. I watched it. I watch Extreme Rules. I watch Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, Rampage, all that good stuff. So we're gonna talk about it. So let's talk a little bit about Extreme Rules because that's something I have not covered here, and it was such a phenomenal show that will be remembered for many years to come. So as we all know at this point, Bray Wyatt made his epic return at Extreme Rules. It was absolutely phenomenal. So well done. The show in general, I thought, was extremely well done, culminating in Bray's return, leading up to leading up to that point was all the clues with the QR codes and the cryptic tweets and just kind of wondering what it was going to be. Now I did not forget that in the past I did say something like, well, maybe the White Rabbit won't be Bray Wyatt. Possibly, I was thinking maybe it could possibly be Malachi slash Aleister Black. And I do still believe that at some point he will come back to WWE. I do believe that he will, especially now that his wife, Zelina Vega, is back with Legado del Fantasma. I believe I'm saying that correctly. If I am not saying that correctly, please forgive me. But that faction, they just made the jump from NXT to WWE main roster, debuting on SmackDown, I believe it was. I believe it was a SmackDown before Extreme Rules, if I'm mistaken. Please forgive me. But they, with her being back, and they replaced, apparently in NXT, the female member of the group was Electra Lopez, and she has been replaced with Zelina. So yeah, I think he's going to come back to WWE at some point. However, we do have to talk about who do we think will be in Bray's faction. Everyone has been asking who is going to be in the Wyatt Six, because as we know, the members of the Firefly Fun House, say that 10 times fast, Firefly Fun House were depicted as real live human beings and no longer puppets. So we had the witch, Huskus the pig, the fiend himself, now being part of the Wyatt Six, the buzzard. It's six. It's six altogether. Six characters, five characters, and then the sixth being Bray himself. And so there's people speculating it will be Joe Gacy, that it will be Bo Dallas. As you may or may not know, Bo Dallas is Bray Wyatt's real life brother. I think it's worth mentioning because I think a lot of people don't know that, especially if you're not like a die-hard wrestling fan. I know I did not know that, and that he dates Liv Morgan, who lost to Ronda. The women's SmackDown title did change hands. Now Ronda is the new Women's SmackDown champ, leaving Liv at the end of the match with this creepy Harley Quinn type of smile, and that suits her character so well. I always thought she would be better as a heel anyway. She's always had that Harley Quinn type of edge to her. She even came out with a bat to the ring. Like, come on, like that would be perfect. Let's just say she is going to kill some looks with the Harley Quinn look with the bat and the makeup. I think that would be phenomenal for her, and I think her character needs a heel turn. So I'm glad that that's the direction they're headed in. So that being said, she would be excellent in the stable. So her boo Bo. A lot of people are speculating that Joe Gacy will be leaving NXT and coming up to the main roster to join. Others have said that Dexter Loomis, who, as we know, has been haunting The Miz for what feels like forever. A lot of people are speculating that he's going to be joining. So at any rate, I think it will be interesting to see where that goes from here, because we saw it was at probably the last 5 to 7 minutes of Extreme Rules is when Bray was revealed. He was not on Raw, but we did learn on Raw that he will be on SmackDown. SmackDown on the 14th. this Friday. So he will be there. That's going to be exciting. I'd really like to hear what he's going to say, because that's one of the reasons why his return was so amazing, because he did not speak. Like, there were, I'll just describe it for those that did not see it. At the end of the Rollins and Riddle match, the lights go out, and we know what it is. We're like, oh, okay, here it is. This is what we've been waiting for. The lights go out. Everyone's got their phones. The fireflies come out. They start playing He's Got the Whole World in His Hand. You'll know that. You might know the Sunday school song. Super creepy rendition. It's very slow and intentional, and you just know. You're like, oh, this is gonna be good. So they've got this, the crowd is black, and they have spotlights in the crowd on the aforementioned Wyatt Six, the different characters. And the reason why we know this stable or faction is going to be called the Wyatt Six is because quite some time ago, Bray Wyatt changed his social media handle, particularly his Twitter handle, to Wyatt Six with a little red circle emoji. So this has been brewing. Like, he's such a mastermind. Like, him and his team and everyone that like puts together this stuff is really, really good at it. Like, the way his mind works is just it's so good, because it's like he's mastered the art of, something is coming, but you don't know how he's going to do it. It's like he tells you the end, but he doesn't tell you how he's going to get there, and it leaves you like, we want to know. Like, even now, okay, so let's go back to Extreme Rules. So the spotlight is on these different characters. We see someone dressed as the Fiend, which is the last time we saw Bray Wyatt as the Fiend, it was Randy Orton setting him on fire. And so we see the burned Fiend mask on the announcer's table. And so the Fiend is dead. And then at the very end, we see Bray emerging from like a door. We see the doors open, bright lights. We see someone coming out with a lantern, and it's him. You see him coming out, you see his locks and everything. So you're like, okay, this is definitely him. Because at first it was kind of teased, like, is it going to be him? Is it not going to be him? I mean, it's like like I said, it's going to be him, but it's like, what is he going to look like, I guess? So he has on a mask now that is very reminiscent of the movie The Black Mask, which came out earlier this year with Ethan Hawke, where he plays a super creepy killer that wears a mask, like all good serial killers, right? All good killers wear masks. Movie killers, not real life ones. But he's wearing this mask, very reminiscent of the Black Mask, which, might I add, I wrote an article about this on firedup.ca, on Fired Up Network, if you want to check out my Extreme Rules recap, where myself and many others were tweeting this like right away. Others who were live tweeting it were like, this really looks like the Black Mask, the Black Phone Mask. And coincidentally, it is the same creator. I believe his name, I'm going to look it up so I don't get his name wrong, because I thought it was super cool. But essentially, while I'm looking up, the creator of the Fiend mask is also the same man who made the Black Phone mask, and who, I'm guessing, who made this new Bray Wyatt mask as well. I'm going to look up his name so I don't get it wrong. But I thought it was really super cool. And I apologize, but I just want to make sure that I give the correct credit. Of course, like I said, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but the creator, and this came up because, like I said, myself and many others are like, this looks like the Black Phone mask. And the creator was in the comments saying, well, I made both. And we're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I thought that was really cool to have work that's so easily recognizable, that right out the gate people can recognize your work. I think that is really cool, because there's a million masks out there, but to be able to spot someone's work like that, I think is super, super cool. And like I said, of course, I'm trying my best to find it, because I had written the article, and then later I saw the creator's tweet, and I wanted to give him credit, to give his name. So pretty cool about that. And so then the show ends, and Bray takes the mask off and says, I'm here, or I'm back. It's debatable if he said, I'm here, I'm back. You couldn't hear it either way. You could just read his lips. And blows the lantern out, and then the show goes off. And we're left like, oh my God, like that just happened. super cool. Like the IWC as we call ourselves. Wrestling Twitter was just completely um in awe, in shock, in awe, and amazement. Like it was number one trending on Twitter for quite some while. Like number one was The Fiend, number two was Bray Wyatt. So he was trending for quite a while on Twitter and all social medias. Like it was people were absolutely amazed. Like praise all around, all across the board, for for the his return. So then fast forwarding to now, it is to be noted that this was personally, I'll just get my feelings. I was a little nervous about Extreme Rules going into it because we did not have a championship title match for the men. Like, of course, we had Bianca with the Raw Women's Championship, Ronda versus Liv for the Women's SmackDown title. There were no tag team title defenses. The U.S. title was not defended then, but it was defended on Raw. We'll talk about that. What other titles were not defended? The Intercontinental title was not defended. That happened on SmackDown prior. Sheamus lost to Gunther. But he did win with the Brawling Brutes at. He was in a match with the Brawling Brutes at Extreme Rules, and it was amazing. But it was not for the IC title. But that was a fire match. But yeah, there were a number of titles that were not defended at Extreme Rules. So I was a little nervous, and like it didn't have the Roman Star Power. It did not have some other titles like I just mentioned. So I was a little nervous, but they did a really good job of keeping our interest, keeping it amazing, and it still felt extremely watchable and worthy. And those matches were phenomenal. Another standout match, Riddle beat Rollins, which I think he needed to because he needed that win, and that was a great match too. So kudos to all of the producers, all of the talent. Those matches were phenomenal. So let's go to Raw. So on Raw, we've got, of course, the lingering excitement of Extreme Rules, like recapping what happened. We have this one was more of a continuation in storylines. Like we have Dominic is still feuding with his father. We still have Dexter Loomis and The Miz still going on. We did have Lord. We have Rollins. He did win the U.S. title from Bobby Lashley, but let's back up a bit. So, at the conclusion of we've got Dominic and Edge and AJ Styles, and everyone's kind of tied up in that with the drama, father versus son. And so Finn Balor, with Judgment Day, calls out AJ Styles. And AJ Styles comes out, and for a minute there, we're thinking that he's going to forgive Finn Balor and be his brother again, because for those that don't know, Finn Balor and AJ Styles go back, way back to the New Japan days. That's how they came up into who we know them as to be now before they came to WWE. So they in real life go way back. So he's like, yeah, I'm my brother's keeper, but just kidding, not for you. And then the Good Brothers return. Anderson and Gallows, they come back. They've had an interesting journey, like many characters in the game now. They were in New Japan. They made their way to WWE. Then they left to go to AEW. They went back to Japan. And now they're back in WWE. They've literally been all around the world. So they came back. So now they are partnered with AJ Styles, which is good. He needs that, because that's one of the things I was saying last week when Judgment Day jumped AJ Styles. I was like, oh, he needs a friend. So that worked out nicely for him, that now he has the Good Brothers, they're back, they got the boys back together again, if you will. So that was a cool return. So another big return, Brock Lesnar came back. He is apparently still a face. He's still in his cowboy gimmick, even though to me he never really comes off as a face. He's not a believable face. He's a face who does heely things, because he comes out and immediately mollywops Lashley, who had a title defense with Rollins. So as you can imagine, after getting suplexed and F5'd and hit, and all the things that Lashley, how Lesnar operates. He's gonna do an F5, he's gonna do another one, he's gonna do a suplex, he's gonna, like, he does his whole gamut of movesets, and leaving Lashley beaten and feelings hurt, as I would imagine. And then here comes Rollins, and Rollins, like, where do you think you're going? Because you've got all the referees and everyone helping Lashley to the back after this disastrous attack. And Rollins is like, where do you think you're going? You promised me a title match. And so, of course, Rollins doing what he does, playing the mind games, is like, oh, so you're not even worthy of representing your country? Like, you're not a soldier, you're this, you're that. Because as you'll know, as you may or may not know, Lashley is a real life veteran. He really did serve in the military. I believe he was in the army. If I'm wrong, please forgive me. I'm pretty sure he was in the army. He is a real life veteran. And so, if anyone knows to call someone out their name about their service, them is fighting words. So he makes his way back to the ring. And as you can imagine, after receiving multiple F5s and suplexes and punches and kicks, etc., Rollins easily overtakes him because he was already beaten down. And Rollins pretty easily wins the U.S. title, which was pretty unfair, but we know how these things operate. Rollins does what he does because he's a fantastic heel. He does his heel work to perfection, the heel work, the mind games. He's an excellent heel. He's grown into it. I feel like back in 2019-ish when he first became a heel, it was a little gimmicky, I wasn't really feeling it, but now he's coming to his own, and now he's a truly despisable heel. So he is now the U.S. champion. So let's recap the title changes that we've had. We've had Ronda Rousey as the new SmackDown Women's Champ. We have Rollins is the new U.S. champ. We have, it's seeming like, speaking of champs, it is seeming as though the Usos will soon lose their titles. Why? Because the Bloodline, we hear ice cracking. The Bloodline, gotta put my one up. Sorry, I need a drink of water, excuse me. I don't know if you can hear it. That congestion is still making its way out. So the Bloodline comes. Our man Roman Reigns, he opens the show. I'm a huge Roman fan, as everyone knows. He comes out. He's with everyone: Sammy, Jay, Jimmy, Paul, everyone, Solo, everyone. He's cutting his promo. He calls out Logan Paul. Of course, he comes out. Sorry about that. So Logan Paul comes out, and this was very, very clever on Logan Paul's part. Of course, you got six? Let's see, Roman, Usos, Paul. Well, Paul doesn't fight, but he can instigate. You got five or five. Wait, hold on, let's count. Roman, Solo, Usos, Paul. Then you have six. Let's say five men ready to jump you. And so to protect himself, what does he do? Instead of just trying to keep from getting beaten up, he instead instigates for them to fight amongst each other. Brilliant. You can't beat me up if you're beating each other up. Very clever. So he says something to the effect of, oh, y'all are talking about this and that about Crown Jewel because, Logan and Roman have their match coming up at Crown Jewel. He says, oh, am I facing which tribal chief? Is it going to be Tribal Chief Jey Uso? And of course, Roman does not like that. And Jay is going off like, oh, Jay, he pops off quick. He's got a trigger like a hairpin. And he is, who are you talking to? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? Of course, Roman and Jay have a stare down because that's what they do. And Sammy, being who he is, it's like, hey guys, y'all need to stop fighting. Y'all need to calm down. And, basically trying to be the voice of reason, but in his very irritating, passive aggressive way. And actually, I'm sorry, I'm recapping SmackDown. That was SmackDown. But was that SmackDown? That was SmackDown. I apologize. That was SmackDown. I was mixing up my shows because something very similar happened on Raw. Very similar scenario. The Bloodline comes out. And this time it was Riddle. My apologies. It was Riddle that came out and was like, bro, what are you guys talking about, man? Roman, I'm going to take you down. would you face me again? Basically, he challenges Roman to a match again because Riddle did have, it's a lot of R's in here. Okay. Riddle did have a title match against Roman maybe about a month ago or so. Of course, he lost. But basically, he's challenging Roman to a match again. And they're basically like, nice try, but no. But instead, Jay is like, okay, Sammy, basically just like getting back at Sammy, who's always trying to be like fake positive, like, yeah, you can do it. We're all on one accord. We're the ones. We're together. We're the ones. And Jay is like, well, since you the two honorary oos, you the two, why don't you go up against Riddle? Why don't you do it? Because basically Riddle's like, well, if I can't get Roman, I want one of y'all. And Roman or Jay basically pushes Sammy to the front. It's like, go ahead, play it, go ahead, go for it. So Sammy and Riddle have a match. And as you can imagine, they are really doing the slow burn angle here. It's really very interesting. You've got slow burn, like little by little, week by week. Jay and Sammy, the tension is just building and building and building and building, and you know that soon somebody's going to swing on somebody. I am thinking it's going to be Jay because he's a hothead, as we've established. Or when I say we, I mean Roman. This is Roman's words. That was one of the things on SmackDown. Sammy calls Jay and hothead, and of course Jay goes off like, and Roman's like, you are. And Jay's like, what did you say? And Jay's like, you are hothead. You always have been. It's something we've always dealt with you. However, now Sammy, he's your problem. So it's really masterful here how they are playing the mind games. Like Roman is just the puppet master, just like manipulating everybody, and it's so good. It's so good. Like the acting here is A1 because the emotions and just the way he's playing everybody basically, it's beautiful. I really respect it. He's doing some fantastic heel work. And so Sammy's like, wait a minute, what you mean? Like he's my problem. And so fast forward to Raw, it's about halfway through the show, we see a backstage segment, a backstage segment with Paul and Roman, and Jay runs up like, "Hey, where you going, News? We gotta come out here. I want you to be with us during this Sammy's match." And we're like, "No, you're gonna be with him." Like, me and Paul, we're about to hit the town because they were in Brooklyn, mind you. So he's like, "Yeah, we're about to hit the town." Like, no, you go with him. You go be with Sammy. And so he's ringside during Sammy and Riddle's match. And of course, he wants to jump in, but Sammy, you know how it has to be like, just like during Jay's matches, Sammy has been interfering and he's like, no, back off. I can do it myself. Role reversal. Now, Sammy has a match and Jay is trying to be involved, and Sammy's like, no, I can do it on my own. So, Jay, on the other hand, instead of like Sammy's fault, he's like always trying to get involved even after they tell him not to. Jay, on the other hand, is like, okay, cool. You don't want me to be involved? I'm not. So as Riddle is mollywopping Ramy, Lord, Sammy, Jay just watches it happen. Jimmy tries to get involved, but Jay holds him back. Like, no. He said he can do it. Let him do it. So coincidentally, Sammy loses that match to Riddle. And I believe that we're going to hear about this later because this is like the second or third time that Sammy has lost. And I think this is ultimately going to come back on Jay because, again, Roman is the evil mastermind manipulating everyone. And I feel like he's going to be like, why did you let him lose? Like, I sent you out here and this is what you let happen. Like, because the mind games that he plays is, like I said, is so masterful because basically, he sets it up in such a way that Jay is jealous of Sammy for having Roman's approval without him having to work for it. And then Sammy is jealous of all of them because he wants to be loved by Roman so bad. Like Roman does like Sammy, but he knows that they don't fully trust him. It's like everyone is distrustful of everyone, and it's so interesting to watch. So you just know, like somehow there is going to somehow be their fault that Sammy lost. So that should be interesting to see. A little bit more water. So trying to make sure I did not miss any returns. We had the Good Brothers. We had Brock Lesnar. I believe that's about all. Um, of course, we had. Let's see what we have. I think that's about all. That's about it for Raw. Now for just going on in general in the world of wrestling right now, as far as switching gears to AEW, one of the things about AEW that has really been just just radio silence is what the heck is up with, or should we say where in the heck are CM Punk and the Elite? Now we know from the Scrum fallout they were suspended. Cool, we know that. We know the Elite being Matt and Nick Jackson. We know the Young Bucks. I don't know why I could not think of their name to save my life. I'm like, what's their name? So we know that they were suspended, them and Kenny Omega, because they were the trios champions. They got stripped of their titles, and we've literally never seen them again. So we know that they were suspended. We know, or we thought, I'm pretty sure that suspension is over. However, there's been radio silence. And of course, the assumption is that Tony can't really speak on it for legal reasons. However, what you're seeing, there's just like this general vibe during AEW shows. People are really missing them. And there were even chants of tonight of like, where's Kenny? Or we want Kenny. People, I'm seeing on social media, people are like, this is cool, but where are they? When are they coming back? They have a lot of fans and people want to know what's going on. And even with CM Punk, he has a lot of people who are upset with him. But I think just as many more people are like, where is he? Like, what is going on? Because there has been no mention of them at all. You don't see them in, or at least Punk anyways, he is not anywhere to be seen. He's nowhere in the marketing. His name is not mentioned at all by management. And so it's kind of like no matter how good the product is, people still are wondering what is going on. Kind of similar with Andrade, like we don't really know what's going on. Like we know him and Sammy had an altercation. Andrade was seemingly suspended. They didn't come straight. The last I saw, I don't think they straight up came out and used the word suspended, but he was removed from Dynamite last week. So he was not there. And Sammy Guevara he was in the match with Chris Jericho where he actually got the pin in that match. So he was not on tonight's Dynamite. So he was around, Andrade is not. And there has not been a lot of mention with him either. So there's just kind of this thing that AEW does where people get taken off TV or taken away or suspended or somehow receive disciplinary action, and there's just like no updates. Like, where are they? When are they coming back? When should we look for them? When we see them again, when do they have a match? Who's they're going to be like? You just don't know. And I think that's kind of frustrating. You're like, people just come and go seemingly without anything. It's just kind of like you kind of get attached to someone and you're like, wait a minute, where is so and so? So that's kind of a thing with and the same could be said for WWE. Like, I'm not saying WWE does not do this, because they definitely do. Like, for example, where is Veer? He debuted. He was crushing people, literally, and we haven't seen him since. Excuse me. You feel a little tickle in your throat. Excuse me. Yeah, we haven't seen him since. So I'm not saying that only AEW does the disappearing act thing, but it just feels like there's been a lot of that lately. And we understand, as fans, like we understand there's legal issues. We understand you can only say so much, but it's like, give us something, right? Like, can you say a little more? Like, we're not saying get yourself in trouble. We're not saying violate your agreements or lack thereof or whatever the case may be. But I just think they need to handle that a little better, because it just makes you, and not to mention, I have to say, watching tonight's Dynamite, everything was like super duper like frenetic. They had segments like boom, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It was kind of crazy. Like there was that. Okay, so tonight, like I said, we opened the show. I'm gonna look at my little recap here. So it was tonight in Toronto, Canada, which is huge for the brand. That's huge. They were in Toronto, Canada, and they, um, that was their first time there. Um, to my understanding, I believe that was their first time in Toronto at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. A lot of wrestlers in the promotion are Canadian. We opened the show with Renee Paquette, formerly Renee Young, who is married to John Moxley and is I believe she's Canadian. Pretty sure she is. Um, that was pretty cool to have her there. To talk about a seamless transition. I'm like, man, I like her. Like she was in WWE. She slid right on that. She had a baby. She came on back. She looked fantastic. Like she's just moving like butter. Like I admire that. She looked fantastic. She is really good with her backstage interviews. Like right off the bat, we opened the show. She's like, hi, welcome to Toronto. I'm going to talk to Christian Cage, who is also Canadian. So he starts talking, doing his heel shtick, like, uh, you got, basically ragging on the Maple Leafs, like you guys aren't going to win. They never win. They always drop the ball. They never win. He ends up on commentary. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy have a match, and Luchasaurus picks up a win. So there was the segment that I wanted to draw attention to that I thought was just like, whoa. It was like 1,000 things at once happening. Was I wanted to get my notes here. Okay, it was the Wardlow or Wardjoe segment. So we had Wardlow and Wardjoe is Wardlow and Samoa Joe. For those that don't know, they defeated the Factory, which was QT Marshall and someone else. I can't remember who the other person was. So it was 2-on-2. Of course, Wardlow and Samoa Joe win, and then we have Brian Cage who came out. With some other guys, and they're talking a bunch of smack. But before you can even really get into what they're saying, then FTR comes out. And then, so basically, Brian Cage is cutting a promo, and I swear he was only talking for maybe 10, 20 seconds before he name drops FTR. So then FTR comes out, and then they're talking for like 5 seconds, and they get interrupted, and then Sean Spears comes out, and then it was like boom, boom, boom. I was like, what? It was so much happening in like such a short. It was like less than 3 to 5 minutes, and everything was happening. And I understand having surprises. I totally get it. I get having surprises, but I felt like they didn't give those segments any time to breathe. It was so much going on, like blink and you'll miss it, and we couldn't even really get into what was being said because everybody was coming out so quickly. So I do think. Let me say, there's two sides to that. Tony Khan is doing a good job of putting more action, more activity, more cool stuff in a short amount of time, because I understand 2 hours plus commercials, and I know they do picture in picture, but it's still not the same. They cram a lot of content into those 2 hours, so I understand you only have a certain amount of time. I get that. However, they were really doing the most with this episode. So like I said, we had you know the champs, because that's another thing too that I thought was interesting. FTR or Wardlow and Samoa Joe, they are champions. Wardlow being the TNT champion, Samoa Joe is the ROH TV champion, and so I'm like, these are title holders, and not to mention FTR, they have literally every title that ever existed. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I lost track of how many they have. The Ring of Honor tag team titles. They have some that'll come back. Okay, we're back. About that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, how do you have the champions, several champions here, at least 4 champions here, in this so many titles, is that it can be difficult to give each champion I think my connection is a little spotty. Sorry about that. It can be a little tricky to give each title holder the time and attention and care that they deserve, and that the character development, developing those feuds, the storylines, and even was very brief. And then it just kept on rolling, So we also had, as far as titles, we had the Ring of Honor World Champion Chris Jericho go up against Danielson. This is their third time together, but of course, Chris Jericho is the Ocho. Wait a minute, how are they doing it? They're doing it like that, I believe. There's a certain way that they're doing it. I think they're doing it like this. Don't mind my nails, like they're not done right now, so don't mind my nails. I think they're doing it like this. But yeah, so that, because that's what him and all the JS members do, because he's the Ocho, Chris Jericho. So he defeats Danielson, and people, Danielson has a very dedicated, very loyal online fan base, in real life too, of course. But his fans, Danielson fans online, are extremely vocal and very protective. They're like Beyonce fans. You know how Beyonce fans are like die hard, ride or die. They go hard. That's how Danielson is. I would say Danielson is the Beyonce of wrestling, in the regard that his fans go hard. Do you hear me? People are like, I'm never watching again. This is crazy. He doesn't deserve this. He should be the champion. I can't believe this. Chris Jericho shouldn't have won. Like, people are going in. Which, to me, I'm sorry, I'm biased. Everyone knows I'm a Chris Jericho fan. I do like Danielson. Make no mistake, I do like him. He is very, very good at what he does. But I'm more loyal to Chris Jericho because I've been a fan since I was like 8. So sorry, I've just known him longer. We go way back. Huge fan. Chris Jericho, if you're listening, I'm a huge lifelong. So he retains. How does he retain? The plot thickens. So during the midst of this match, we know Jericho's a heel now. He's got the title, and it's looking like he's about to hit Danielson to go for the win. But then we see Garcia. Daniel Garcia comes running out, and he slaps it out of his hand. Like, what do you think you're doing? And we're thinking like, oh, okay, because Daniel Garcia, it's a lot of like name. It's a lot of similar names in wrestling. I'm hearing myself talk. I'm like, you're saying the same like types of names like over and over again in different ways. So Daniel Garcia he's supposed to be honorable, right? At one point, we're thinking he was going to leave JAS to go and join Danielson in the Blackpool Combat Club. So he knocks out his hand, and we're like, no, he's better. He's trying to tell him, like, you're better than that. You can't win like this. Don't do this. However, how the tables turned. Danielson gets to his feet, and so I was trying to remember exactly how this happened. So we see them talking, and Danielson gets up and he goes after Jericho, and somehow he ends up on the mat. I don't remember the move that he does. I think he does a knee to the face or thing, but somehow he ends up on the mat. And so we're thinking like, okay, Daniel Garcia is going to turn on Jericho and go to the Blackpool Combat Club. However, that's not what happens. Daniel Garcia takes that belt and go, because he's a title holder as well. He has one of the Ring of Honor titles as well. I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember the whole name of his title, because we got the Ring of Honor World Champion, Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, Ring of Honor. There's several. I cannot remember the exact name of the one that Daniel Garcia has, but he has a title as well, because he defeated. Who did he defeat for it? Why do I keep going down the memory hole of things I can't remember? He defeated. Who did he most recently defeat? He got it off of, I cannot recall at this moment. I'm sorry, y'all. Being sick just wiped my memory. It escapes my mind of who he defeated to win that title. But he is now one of the Ring of Honor champions as well, because as you know, AEW acquired Ring of Honor, and therefore those titles are slowly but surely building a name for themselves amongst people who were not Ring of Honor fans. And when I say not, a lot of us, just like myself, I just did not know about it. It's not that I dislike it, I just didn't know about it. I'm now coming to know, and that's one of Jericho's Jericho's whole things that he's like, I'm going to dismantle all of the Ring of Honor champions one by one. I'm going to beat everyone who has ever had this title. And so that's one of the reasons why he's so hell-bent on beating Danielson, because Danielson himself is a former Ring of Honor champion back from when he was in Ring of Honor. So this is personal for him, because we know Chris Jericho likes to make a statement. And so Daniel Garcia knocks out Danielson, therefore allowing Jericho to retain. And everyone is so shocked because people were just certain that he was going to turn and go to the BCC, which he does not. So after Jericho wins and retains, the rest of JS comes out to celebrate. And that was quite a match. I personally am pleased with the outcome because, like I said, I'm a Chris Jericho fan. I feel this is how I feel about it, because people are like, Danielson deserves a title, and he does, and he will get it. He will. We all know he's a many-time world champion in every promotion he's been in, from Ring of Honor to WWE. He will have many a title. He will get there. I guess one of the reasons why I'm kind of biased and I actually don't mind seeing Jericho with it is because Jericho is a name, whether you like him or not, because I know he can be, he's one of those people either love him or hate him. I'm a huge fan. But his name carries weight. It just does. His name is money. He was the biggest name that helped to get AEW off the ground. And his name being attached to Ring of Honor is really, like I said, is bringing prestige to it. It's helping to make that acquisition more meaningful. Because, like I said, Ring of Honor, not everyone knows about that. And so I think it's helping to elevate that partnership and make it seem more meaningful and important. And also, they're trying to get more TV deals and more brand deals and things like that. So Jericho being in that position is not for nothing. Like, I think people need to, sometimes it's not all about who we like and who we don't like. Like, this is a business at the end of the day. People are in this to make money. Everyone is. It is their job, it is their livelihood, and they make moves in such a way to set themselves up for bigger and better things in the future. So I think that just needs to be said, that it's not just about why doesn't he have a title? Why doesn't he have a title? Like, title go to people that they feel like should have them, and that's their decision. Leadership makes decisions for the reasons that they see fit. So we have to remember that. Speaking of title changes, so we had Pac versus Orange Cassidy, talking about two people that could not be more different. It was really interesting in the beginning of this match. Orange Cassidy being almost silent. He almost never speaks. I think I've heard him speak like twice. He rarely speaks. That's his whole thing. He just puts his hands in his pockets and does his little kicks. And he's an interesting character. Like, at first, I'm not gonna lie, when I first started watching AEW, I was like, I don't get it. I felt like I was missing something. I felt like it was like an inside joke that no one was explaining to me. I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, what's going on here? But now I get it, that I like him. It's just that's his thing. His thing, I keep hitting my head on this mic. His thing is that, he just does the least in the beginning, because he always starts out like staring down, wearing sunglasses. Like, he just does the least until he does. And then, when he gets in there, he's a great competitor. He's a high flyer. He's very athletic. He's super agile. He's amazing when he's wrestling, but he kind of gets into his matches slower than most. So I think that's why some people can be like, what's going on here? But anyway, during his match with Pac in the beginning, they kind of do a role reversal. Pac was kind of playing mind games with him and doing, we're like going to war today. He's kind of doing his shtick on him, and he's mocking him, like faking like he's putting his hands in his pockets and basically poking fun. And I thought that was hilarious, because he's very serious. Like, the man calls himself the bastard. Okay, he's very serious. He's a no nonsense kind of guy. He also does not talk very much. He cuts a promo every once in a blue moon. He is a man of few words. And so it's kind of interesting to have these two characters that don't talk much versus someone like MJF, for example. All he does, I shouldn't say all, but most of what he does, like, he's mean on the mic. Like, the dude is untouchable on the mic, so he can verbally eviscerate you. But like Pac and Orange Cassidy, they're not really the type to do that. They're more of I'm just go to the ring and we're just about to fight. And that's what they did. And so that was a hard fought match. So there were some pretty sick bumps. Pretty early on in the match, we had Pac taking down Orange Cassidy with a Falcon Arrow directly on the mat on the floor, not on the mat, but on the floor, and it was like, whew, that looked painful. Like no cushion, like directly on the floor. We saw a couple spots where Pac landed directly on the crown of his head back to back. It was a little scary looking, and him being such an athletic high flyer, like he's such an anomaly, and that he's like super ribbed, super lean. But he does a lot of high. He's so strong, but he does a lot of high flying spots as well. And when he landed on his head, you're like, whoa! Seeing anyone land on their head is like, I always like gasp every time, because the head, the neck, this everything from the collarbone up is like, whoa. But that match turned out, I think they made the right decision, putting the title on Orange Cassidy for the same reason that I feel like they made the right decision, a couple weeks ago, and they put the titles on the Acclaimed, because they're fan favorites. And at some point, you kind of do have to give the people what they want. And this was Orange Cassidy's first title that he has held in AEW. And so I think that was good for him. Of course, at the end, they had the orange confetti, and best friends come out to celebrate with him, which I think was a good choice. So I think that match ended well. They did a good job with that. As far as the women, we had, kind of going backwards here, we had Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker versus Sheeta and Toni Storm. And that was a good match. I'm not going to lie, that one was not mind blowing for me, in the sense that you knew who was going to win. So, that's kind of the thing when you have, like I was saying earlier about like Wardrobe and FTR and them, like when you have title holders in non-title matches, like they usually win almost always. 8 to 9 times out of 10, they're going to win. So it wasn't like, who's going to win this? Like, she's going to win. So Toni and Cheetah won. It was good in terms of performance, but not shocking in terms of outcome. But it was a good match. I think with that feud, I think they need to spice that up a little bit. I'm not really understanding why they had they were making it seem like Jamie and Britt were going to be feuding, but now they're back paired up again. And it doesn't really seem to be. I personally did not want that. I wanted to see Jamie and Britt feud. I would like to see that. I like to see them go against each other, because they're both great competitors. I would like to see that. But it doesn't seem like we're going to see that anytime soon. So I was kind of bummed. I'm like, yeah, I'd like to see that. And then in terms of upcoming matches, it is, to my knowledge, if I'm wrong, correct me down in the comments, or correct me, but I do not know. Do we know who Tony's next opponent is going to be? I have not heard it. It seems as though it's going to be Britt Baker, but I don't think it has been announced what her next title bout is going to be. Who is her next feud going to be with? It, like I said, it seemed like they were setting it up to be Britt, but now, like I said, now she's back with Jamie Hayter again. So, like, is it not sure. And then in terms of women and what they're doing with the titles, I'm sorry, I'm a little salty about the whole thing that they're doing with the TBS title. So on Rampage, excuse me, on Rampage, they had a segment where Nyla Rose came out and physically stole the TBS title from Jade. Physically took the belt and is wearing it on her waist. And I'm like, okay, we see the title the title stealing segment, like we've seen that. Okay, cool. However, tonight they did something that I thought was rather silly. And okay, so fast forward to tonight, Nyla is still wearing the title, and she's got Vicky Guerrero and someone else with her. And basically they're like taking challengers. I'm like, wait a minute, how are you gonna physically steal the title, not win it? For those that might not understand, she did not face Jade and win the title from her. She just is physically wearing the title on her waist. Like, Jade is still the legit real champ. She's the real TBS Women's Champion, or TBS champion. But Nyla is just physically wearing it on her waist and taking competition, because up comes Anna Jay and is like, I'm gonna take that title off you. I'm like, it's not her title though. And she says something like, yeah, I'm gonna show you and Jade what a real champion looks like, what a real champion does. But I thought that was just kind of unnecessary. Personally, I don't really like it, because Jade is the first TBS champion. Like, she's the first person to hold that title. And I already don't like how they have treated her with it. I feel like they could have held it in much more prestige. They should have been giving her more matches. This is my personal opinion. I feel like she should be having more matches to showcase her talent. She's great. A lot of people have something to say about her in the ring. I think she's great. Her in-ring performance matches her character. Her character is a heel. She is sassy. She is braggadocious like that. She's a heel. That's what a heel is. She embodies her character to a T, and she's very similar to MJF in that she's like, she's really good on the mic. I think her and MJF are very, very comparable in their style. They will eviscerate you on the mic, and in the ring they just do what they have to do and go. They don't do necessarily a whole bunch of high flying spots, and not there's anything wrong with high flying spots, but it's just an observation. They are more in the sense that I'm going to embarrass you and humiliate you and wear you down psychologically, so then in the ring it's an easy fight, if that makes sense. They do more of the mind games, and I'm going to wear you down so bad that your confidence is so low that you're already defeated before you even get in there. And so, in that regard, I feel like there's so much more they could have done with her title. First of all, it has always bothered me that Jade is the TBS champ, but they don't put her on TBS. She's on TNT. And they sometimes do that with Wardlow. He's the TNT champion. I feel like he should be on TNT more. I mean, this is not anything against these talent and their performance. This is an observation of the booking. Let me just make that clear. I am huge fans of everyone that I'm naming. It's that I feel like they could be doing more with their characters. Look at Jade. Look at her. She is a real life storm. The woman has 0%, 0.0002 body fat. She is absolutely stunning. She's gorgeous. She has a huge social media following. She has brand deals. She is literally the total package. She is everything you could want in a wrestler. Why is she not on TV more? Why does she not have more high profile matches? Why are we not seeing her in feuds that are a little bit better developed, more long-term storytelling? Like the whole thing, like, okay, let's talk about her and the baddies. The thing with the baddies, I feel like they have not played that faction up as good as they could. And I do realize like Red Velvet is injured. But I just would like to see them do more with them. I feel like they're fumbling $1 billion bag there. There's just so much talent there. So beauty, looks, mic ability, ring ability, like there's so much talent there. I would like to see. I want more Jade, doggone. I want to see her more. I love Jade. I want to see her more. I want to hear from her more. And same thing with the Wardlow. I feel the same way about him. I want to see him more. I want to hear from him more. And I'm sorry, I'm not. And I have said the same. I think I'm pretty consistent here in my critique of AEW and WWE in this. Personally, I don't really see what is the long. Okay. Again, let me just step back for a second. I understand business decisions. I said this before. I understand it's a business, and I have to take my own advice when I say that. I understand it's a business. I get it. You have to make money. You have to do things a certain way. I understand that. However, I don't like putting major titles in tag teams. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm like, give them one-on-one feuds. If they're the trios, like for example, that's why I like the trios title. I'm like, cool, group them together. The trios titles, tag team titles, group tag team partners together, group trio partners together. But why do you have your TBS champion? She's in a group and she rarely has she doesn't really have many one-on-one feuds. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I just feel like they could be doing so much more with her. And I'll just say it, I don't feel like they prop Jade up nearly as much as they do Britt Baker. And she has everything she needs to be propped up. Like there is they should be pushing her to the moon. Everyone and their mother should know who she is. Like the same level of fame and accolades, and just like Bianca Belair is very well known at this point in WWE. Like people outside of wrestling know who she is. Like she has crossed over to mainstream fame. Like she's been retweeted by Cardi B. Like she's been trending on Twitter. Like people know who she is. Like she's you might not know who she is, but if you show a picture of her, most people who are anywhere involved in social media. Like if you're on social media, you're like, oh, I've seen her before. She's in commercials. She's everywhere. They should be doing that with Jade. Like TK, like what are we doing? Like there is no like Jade. Like how what do you need to see that you're not seeing? I guess that's the question that no one has been able to answer for me. What do you need to see that you're not seeing? Look, talent, beauty, likability, personality, able to move in and out of the wrestling world with grace, like crossover to different mainstream segments. Like she used to be a basketball player, she's married to a baseball player, she has social, physical. Like what more do we need? I just what do you need to see that you're not saying? Push Jade, do it. Push her to the moon. She and like I said, at this time, like she is the perfect answer to Bianca Belair. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because not only because they're two black women, not only because they're two black women, not only because I'm a black woman and I really like seeing more people that look like me be treated very well. Because traditionally, and it's not a secret, in WWE in the past, black female wrestlers were not treated very well. Um, Jacqueline back in the day did not really get her due. She didn't get her flowers too much later. I feel like we just did not get much of a push. Naomi, I feel like, was not treated at the same level she should have been. Still want to see her back, Triple H. Bring her back. I bring that up that I feel like now is the time to don't make those same mistakes. I feel like Tony Khan could learn so much from the mistakes that WWE made in the past. Don't do that again. Why would you have someone like Jade could easily be the female China? Hopefully not the end part, but you know what I'm saying. Like there was a point where China was everywhere. She was on TV, she was in movies, she was in magazines, she was everywhere. She was very mainstream. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who's like between the ages of like, I'd say anyone between the ages of like 25 and 45 who doesn't know who China is, even if they're not a wrestling fan, they'll be like, oh yeah, I've heard that name. They'll know, like she's known. Like Jade should be on that same level, if not way more, with social media. So I'm going on my little rant, but my whole point is I just would like to see people who have so much going for them and literally the title around their waist be pushed more. Same thing with Wardlow. They need to be pushing Wardlow as much as they push Adam Cole and Danielson and Mox, if not more, because he's younger. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see more. I want to see more people who have titles, not just them, but I'd like to see more of Dark Death Triangle. There needs to be more Death Triangle. Aren't they the current trios champions? Why are we not seeing more of them? I don't think we've even seen them all together in a while. So that's just like my critique, and I like I said, I try to keep it. I try to apply the same rules no matter the company. I don't like to have some rules for AEW and some rules for WWE. I try to be consistent in my critiques because I don't. I said from the jump, I don't like tribalism. Wrong is wrong, right is right. I believe that if you put the title on, if you believe in someone enough to put the title on them, you should believe in them enough to push them. And if you don't want to push them, put it on someone else. Don't have a champion that you're not pushing, because my issue with that is then it sets up the person who gets the title after them. It makes it seem unimportant because, like, at this point, like, okay, whoever gets the title after Jade, if they don't course correct, whoever gets the title after Jade is going to be like, yeah, what's the big deal? It doesn't seem like a prize. It doesn't seem like, holy crap, this is a big deal. And they were going around that same, and actually I would say they're still on that path with the All Atlantic Championship if they don't course correct. Because yes, it changed hands, but they better treat Orange Cassidy's run better than they treated Pac's run, because he wasn't even on TV that much. You know, they just didn't. Again, you can't unveil a new title and then not push the person, because otherwise, what's the point? It just doesn't. There's no reason to get us invested in what's going on. So that's my perspective. I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but there's always a lot going on. So if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, give me your comments, give me your feedback. I'm always open to feedback, comments, concerns, critiques. If you think I'm right, tell me why. If you think I'm wrong, tell me why. I'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in being on the show, reach out, let me know, and we'll see if we can get it set up. But that's about all for this week. Again, this has been The Slam, and I'm your host, Martina. Have a great day, guys. Bye.